Or the Creator Town Hall is on the air. Let's do it.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out.
It is true. It's true what they say. Nobody's got it figured out. We're all just a work in progress. And in this video, we're going to be looking at mastering. Yes, the art form that is mastering. It's a bit of a mystery, and we're going to demystify the world of mastering in the next hour. So if you've been thinking about how do I master my songs, what's the difference between mixing and mastering, what options do I have for mastering, especially if you're on an iOS device, then hang around because we're going to answer all of those questions and a whole lot more. Hello to the folks who are here live. This is the Creator Town Hall. We're brought to you today by, yes, me, the Studio Live Today Gear Guide. If you jump on over here to studiolivetoday.com/gear, you can check out all the stuff that I use and what I recommend. I'm getting all choked up already. All the stuff I use and recommend here. So whether you are in the US or the UK or Canada or Australia, you can check out all of the gear there on Amazon, and check this one out down here. This is my current setup. Now, it's not updated since July, because I haven't really updated anything. But I do need to get in there because I've got some new things. I've got the iRig Pro Duo that I've recently added to my setup and a few other little bits and pieces here. So I do need to update it again. But there's a whole bunch of stuff there. That's all the gear that I use. And then it's divided up here into my recommended interfaces, microphones, the Apple to Lightning adapters, cameras, mixers, headphones, monitor speakers, and all the rest. So if you want to jump in and check out what I use, you can do that. What have we got coming up here on the show? Well, we've got a bit of a weird show here. Normally I go through about 10 different items. We do a midpoint motivation. We do a bunch of different articles. We've only got 3, actually 4. I've added an extra one. We've got 4 things here that we're talking about here today. We're going to go through those, and then we're going to dive into mastering. So if you're watching on the replay, check the timestamps. They'll be down in the description, and that will take you to the different sections. So let's dive in here and talk about the news here first and foremost, and then we'll talk mastering. So iOS 15. Let's talk about this to start with, because iOS 15 and iPadOS 15 have just hit the world. And if you've got an iPhone or an iPad, it would have told you about it. Here's the weird thing. iOS hasn't really told you to update yet. So I haven't updated here on my iPhone 12 Pro, and I haven't updated on my iPad Pro 2020. Reason being is, if you are in the middle of a critical project, and guess what? It's the middle of September, which means it's Songtember, which means I am in the middle of a critical project. I haven't updated these devices. I have updated my iPhone XS and my iPad Pro, the old one that I have. So they're on iOS 15 now, but I'm staying on iOS 14.8 on these devices. And the reason for that is sometimes some software and some hardware will not work and will fail. And you don't want that. You don't need that. You don't need that in your life. So here's what it looks like. Let's see if the camera can pick up what it's saying here. It can't at all. It looks like a blank screen. There you go. If I tilt it on the side, you can just see that. So what it says is I've got iOS 14.8, and it says your iPhone software is up to date. And then it says upgrade to iOS 15, question mark, down the bottom. And I'm saying no. And I recommend that you say no to that for now. Reason being, we've had reports, Focusrite Scarlett interfaces. They are one of the more popular interfaces. I have one sitting right here, in fact, on my desktop here that I use for my Mac. I need to test this out, and I'll be doing that tomorrow. But I've had reports from 3 different reputable people that I trust saying iOS 15 will brick these things. That sounds dramatic. It will not work with iOS 15. I've also been told that iOS 15.1, the beta that's about to come out, that does work. So it's not like, oh no, I've got a Focusrite Scarlett and it will never work again. But it's really annoying. We had the same thing with some Line 6. I think the Sonic port or one of those ones didn't work with iOS 13, and it took them 2 months to get that working. So people that had that device couldn't use it for 2 months. So what is my advice on this? What do I say every time we have an update? If you don't need it, don't update. 14.8 is perfectly secure. It has all the stuff in there that you need. And if you're in the middle of a big project, do not update to iOS 15 or iPad OS 15. The updates in there are so small this time around. It's very incremental. You're not missing out on much. There's nothing cool in there that's going to help you with your music production or your video production or anything. In my humble opinion, your mileage may vary, but just don't do it. Friends don't let friends update their iOS unless they really have to. So please keep that in mind if you are in the market for updating. We're going to move on because Songtember, I just referenced it. I mentioned it. Songtember is happening. You'll hear my Songtember song a bunch of times here today because we're going to use it as a reference point for mastering. Because guess what? Tomorrow, right here on the channel, we're going to be mastering. Oh, by the way, let's just go back to iOS 15 for a sec because I didn't come over here. iOS 15, over here. I would recommend checking out the latest episode of Mac Break Weekly because Rene Ritchie, who's one of my Apple heroes, he gets access to all the iPhones and the iPads and everything. He's already done all these reviews. The embargo's been lifted. They're all out tomorrow anyway. So go and check out Mac Break Weekly because they talk about the iPhone 13, they talk about iOS 15, and they talk about my current favorite TV show, Ted Lasso. So go and check that out. Now, and that's down in the description if you want to check it out. Now, let's move on to Songtember because this is important stuff. Songtember is our Song in a Month challenge. You heard my Songtember song there in the opening. That's called Work in Progress, and it is still a work in progress. But tomorrow we will be mastering, and then we'll be creating some cover art for that. And when I say tomorrow, that's in like 12 hours time. So if you extrapolate that out, wherever you are in the world, if you're watching this live, it's going to be in like 12 hours time. So I think that's like 4 p.m. for those on the West Coast, 7 p.m. East Coast, midnight for those in Greenwich Mean Time, and kind of mid-morning for those here in Australia. So we'll be doing a bunch of cool stuff here in iOS, and we'll be mastering my Songtember song. But it's not all about me. It's all about you. We talk about you because my goal on this channel is to help you create, record, and release your best music. So we do that, and Songtember is all about you. And because it's all about you, we have set up this Your Music Live episode 68. Look, I'm going to give it a like here because I know I'm going to love it. And I'm going to hit the share button here. I'm going to paste this here for those that are here in the chat live. And hello to the folks who are here live. I've been super rude to ignore you so far. We'll say good day to you in a minute. But I've popped that there so you can jump over there, set yourself a reminder. But here's the cool thing. I want all of your songs because this is going to be an all Songtember edition of Your Music Live. Not this weekend, but next weekend. 1st of October for those in the US and UK and Canada and other places, and the 2nd of October for those in Australia, Asia, and our region over here. But here's what you need to do. You need to jump over here to the Your Music Live Songtember edition form. There's a separate form. So if you've done a Songtember song or if you plan to have a Songtember song finished by the end of the month, what you want to do is you want to bookmark this one, make sure that you get in there and check out the live show. But if you want your song played, you need to put a link in here. And you can link me wherever you want. Link me to YouTube or to SoundCloud or to slaps.com, even the DistroKid link or Spotify, wherever it is. I'll find your song. Just give me a link and just tell me a few sentences about the song, drop it in there, and then we'll be playing an all Songtember edition of the Your Music Live show. So I hope you get amongst that because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm telling you, it'll be a lot of fun. Before we move on to our next topic, we've got a couple more to get through here, and then we're going to jump into mastering. I wanted to say good day to the folks who are here live, who have been here. Hello to Mimo Japan. Hello to Joe Glenn Clayton Von Cluj. I hope you are doing well, my friend. We've got, scrolling down, Peter. Hi, you made it. Well done. Good job. We've got Jade Star is here. We've got Dr. Zorders, who gets reverb. Kenneth, my friend, haven't seen you around for a while. Good to see you here. Gregory O'Sullivan over there in Melbourne town. Hopefully no more earthquakes in Melbourne. Yeah, we're having some weird stuff. Melbourne's copping it from all angles. But yeah, hope you're doing well over there. And whoever I said good day to, we'll scroll on down. Barry Glenn is here as well. If anyone does any questions, please do this. Please put the word question in front of your question right there in the comments, and I'll make sure that I can see that. Are there any other song in a month challenges here? Well, sort of. We do other random stuff through the year. It's all a bit up in the air, but we do some other things. You know what we haven't done in a while, and what I think we should do in maybe October or November is an 8-bar challenge. Those are always epically fun, where you just have to do, because song in a month is a bit daunting for some people. I think some folks love just creating something small. So we did an 8-bar challenge a few years ago. Did I say 8-bar or 8-bar challenge like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was a lot of fun. So maybe we'll do something like that later in the year. But yeah, we do all sorts of things here. And if you go over to there's two groups that I recommend here. This wasn't on my list of things to talk about, but since you asked, there's two groups over on Facebook that I recommend you join if you like these sort of things. One is, of course, our Create, Record, Release Facebook group. So if you go to createrecordrelease.com, you can join me and 1,000 plus awesome people over here where we hang out and we talk about all things creating, and it's a great time. There you go, Songtember right now, so you can see there. And the other one is the Song Spark group, and this is actually an excellent segue. I'm going to go in here to the Song Spark Songwriting and Composition Collective. Check this one out. This is our friend John Kell. And John Kell is also the mastermind behind the Song Surfing podcast, which, guess what? I was lucky enough to be on this week's episode. So jump on over there. This is a 200 people in that group, but that is a monthly Song in a Month challenge. So Peter and others who are interested in that sort of thing, if you want to get your songwriting on, go and join the Song Spark group. It is amazing. Folks like Glenn Clark and John Kell and Jason and a bunch of other people are all there. Josh, there's a bunch of people there that are really cool. Jude from the GarageBand Users group. It is great. You will love it. And what they do there is they give you a spark each month. So they give you an idea, a concept, or something that you introduce into your lyric, or a type, a format of a song, and then you have to make a song out of it. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. So jump over there and check that one out. As I said, that was a good segue into our next one. Sorry, before we do that, question. Emailed you a Songtember link to my song, but I didn't write much about it. I'm ignorant because of being new. That is fine. If you emailed it to me, go back to the form. Just submit it in the form. So the form is linked over on the page. So if you go back over there, down in the description, go over there, go to the link that we have down there, which you can go to the Songtember link, and then submit it there. So that you'll be absolutely hunky-dory. Hello, Touch Life Music, watching from the UK. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you, my friend. So let's jump in. So the next one here, we're going to talk about the Song Surfing podcast, because if you go to songsurfingpodcast.com, guess what you're going to find? You're going to find a picture of this guy. But here's the cool thing. Because I was on the Song Surfing with Friends, I got to chat to John not only about my experience creating this channel and creating music, but I also got to talk about a couple of my friends. And I picked a couple of dudes that don't get enough love. I mean, they do, because everyone loves Thomas Christ and Gary Hubbs, but they need more love. Go give them more of the love, because they are both amazing creators, and I wanted to showcase these dudes on the show. So if you check out the episode here, you can go and play it right there in the link on the page here. Go to your favorite podcast app. I use Overcast on iOS. You can use Apple Podcasts or whatever you use to get your podcast, Spotify even, and subscribe to the podcast. Let's I haven't tested this. Let's give this a little bit of a play and listen into John here. Whatever you use to get your podcast, Spotify even. And I'm playing my own video in the background here. That's the problem. That's why you heard me talking there. I'm going to turn myself down, and we're going to come back over here and listen to just John here. So there's John's music.
Hey, Song Surfers, welcome to Song Surfing. It's your friend John. Song Surfing is a bi-weekly playlist of independent music pulled from the far reaches of the internet.
It sure is. And if you want to check that out, look, we're at 23. I think once you listen to that episode, you will go back. If you've not been a song surfing person, you will go back in time and you will listen to every episode, because it is awesome. We've had friends of the show here like John Silvers and Glenn Clark and Derek Smith that have been guests on the show as well, and they've played some amazing music from a lot of indie artists, some of whom you'll know and some who you won't know. So it's a music discovery. The more music that's out there and the more options there are for music discovery, like Ron Ward's show, Mike's show over on Creative Sources coming up tonight as well, and Thomas Christ himself, who has a brand new show called You Rock. I just think that's good. I just think that there should be more people doing the stuff that these guys are doing. It is very, very cool. Thank you, Joe. Listened to it yesterday. There you go. Gregory O'Sullivan was talking about a typo. He got an email saying correct song name, finished process. So it sounds like Gregory was releasing a song and had a typo in his song release. Now, when you're releasing a song using DistroKid, and I do recommend you use DistroKid, they're a sponsor of this channel, so full disclosure on that one, but there is a link down in the description if you want to check out DistroKid. They are my music distributor of choice, and they do a great job. And if you're releasing with them, what is it? Measure twice, cut once. So do the check, the double check, and the triple check. I wasn't going to share this, but for those watching here live and on the replay, I'm going to have a quick sip. For those watching live and on the replay, I'm actually going to attempt to release my new song in the middle of Your Music Live this week. So, as you know, Your Music Live is sponsored by DistroKid, and I'm going to try and use DistroKid live on Your Music Live to release a song. Could that be the end of the sponsorship? Maybe. No. DistroKid are cool. And I'm pretty confident. I've released a lot of stuff through DistroKid, and I just thought that would be a cool way to do things and to show the power of DistroKid by getting a song out there right in the middle of the show. So that will be happening on the weekend. So if you were planning on missing Your Music Live this week, highly recommend you don't, because that's going to be a lot of fun. Alrighty, let's move on, shall we? I was going to talk about one final thing, and I'll be really quick on this because then we'll get to the mastering, but paying for promotion. So I don't usually get into these conversations, but someone put something out there on another group. It wasn't one of our regular groups. It wasn't Create, Record, Release. They were talking about promotion, and they got into some hot water with, I don't remember which streaming platform, but basically they paid a promoter to promote their music. And it was deemed fraudulent, which means that the promoter, instead of actually using legitimate promotional methods like paying for ads and like promoting things through social media, they probably went to one of these click farms, or they probably went and just bought some subscribers. So all I'm going to say about this is promotion is fine. Yes, if you want to promote your music. In fact, Jade Starr's doing a chat with Andy Goldsby tomorrow. Jade, if you're here, and I saw you earlier, put your link in the chat here right now, and I'll link it in the description. Send it to me. I'll link it in the description afterwards. But Jade's chatting about this exact thing. There are ways to promote your music. It's kind of like hacking. If anyone's ever learned about hacking, there's white hat and there's black hat. You want to be a white hat when it comes to promoting your music, which means you want to be a genuine, real person. You want to engage with genuine, real listeners who are going to care about your music. And you basically want to find unique and creative ways to reach out to real people who are going to dig the music you create. If instead you go to someone that you pay $50 through WhatsApp, it's not going to work for you. Or if you go to these groups where it's like, let's grow together. Let's all just listen to each other's music so that we get better vanity metrics on Spotify so that we feel better about ourselves. Is that helping you? Is it? Really? That little tiny dopamine hit you might get to your brain might be fine, but is it actually helping you in your music at the end of the day? Or should you be spending your time either doing promotion that is going to help you, or even better, get your music out there and then get back in the studio and work on more music so that your music improves and you get better? Isn't that a better use of everyone's time? Maybe. That's all I'm going to say about that, as Mr. Forrest Gump once said. Let's continue on here, shall we? And where are we at? All right, let's talk mastering. There you go. Thank you, Jade. Tomorrow's show on getting your music heard. There is the link. So jump on over to that one, and I'll make sure that the show notes are updated with that link after the show. So if you're watching on the replay, it'll already be down there, and do catch Jade's, because she's talking with Andy Goldsby of the Indigo Sunsets, and Andy's had play on like BBC Radio in the UK. Like, he's an independent artist. He's just like you and me, but he's got his music out there, and he's taken some chances, and that's all really cool. All right, let's continue on, shall we? Let's get into our main topic for today, and we're talking mastering. What is it? Why should you do it? How do you do it? We're going to talk about all these things here today. Let's start with the simplest one, which is, what is mastering? So, mastering a song is all about taking your final mix and making sure it is radio ready. Who listens to the radio anymore? I don't know. What do we mean by that? It means making sure that your final mix is at a competitive volume and that is sounding like other songs. So when you release it using DistroKid, or even if you put it on SoundCloud or YouTube or wherever, it sounds like it belongs. So when you hear a Foo Fighters song and then your song and then I was going to say Kanye, let's just say Muse song, because they're the sort of artists I like, then it's going to sit right in the middle of those. So that is what mastering is. It's basically adding those final touches. And we'll talk in a moment about what those all are. But usually you're talking about things like limiting, which is a form of compression. And we'll show you all about what that means in a moment. Maybe some EQing. So maybe some of your frequencies are too harsh. You need to drop the trebles or boost the bass, do things like that. That's something we'll show in a moment. And maybe even a little reverb or stereo imaging, and even some multi-band compression. These are all things that if all those terms went boom dumb. Don't worry, we're going to actually give you a practical example in just a moment. So we've already covered a little bit of it, but why should you master? Well, number one is you don't need to. Like everything in music is subjective. So do you need to master? No. But do you need to understand what it does so you can make an informed decision about whether you should master your music? Yes. So if you've got a final mix, here's how it works. You get your final mix and then you will master it. And that just usually means taking your mix, which might be, moving up and down a bit. Maybe it's peaking up near 0 dB, but if you've mixed it well, it's probably only peaking up to -6 dB or something like that. And then you want to move all that up. Use some limiting and some compression to increase the overall volume of your sound. The reason you want to do that is basically everyone else does it. I know, don't jump off the bridge just because Johnny at school jumps off the bridge. But in terms of music, because a lot of people listen to singles these days instead of albums, and because listening on playlists is such a big thing, if you're in a playlist or if you're being listened to with a bunch of other music, you kind of need to make sure your music's at a competitive volume. Now, some people won't agree with that. Some people will agree. It's all a bit subjective. And you don't want to crush it. We'll show you in a moment. I'll give you some examples of how you can crush your masters and actually do too much of this limiting. You still want to maintain what's called dynamic range. So the loud part should still be louder. The quiet part should still be quieter. You don't want a sausage. You don't want this big square waveform. And again, I'm going to show you how to do it wrong in a moment, or at least not wrong, but how to do it the way I wouldn't advise so that you can see how you can do it if you do it the way that I would advise. So that is why you should master. You want to be at a competitive level. You want to make sure that your song is sounding good when it's played against other songs. So let's answer this question, shall we, after a sip? How do we master a song? So there's a bunch of different ways. Number one, and probably the easiest way, is online mastering. Now, there's a bunch of different places. Probably the most famous, or at least most well-known online mastering platform is called LANDR. Now, it took me the longest time to realize that LANDR stood for L and R, even though right in their logo there it says L and R. I didn't really get it at the time. So LANDR is online mastering. Now, there's LANDR, there's eMaster, there's something called Schnalls, which I've used before. I've got videos here, so down in the description you can check out, that's not the right one. Where's the one where I did LANDR? Is it this one? There you go. Online mastering with LANDR. So you can check that one out and see how I did there. Now here's the thing, online mastering, it might seem simple, and it is, but most online mastering platforms will only master your songs for free to like an MP3 file, like a compressed file. If you want the full WAV file, you're going to have to pay. So LANDR's like that, eMaster's like that, and some are now using subscription models. So if you want mastering with zero thought process, if you just got your final mix and you just want to throw it up on a platform, get it mastered for free and get it done, then yeah, these things are cool. But there are other ways to do it, which we're going to talk about now. Number two, you can hire a mastering engineer, because why not? Like, there are people like my friend Ian Shepherd here. Ian Shepherd is an amazing mastering engineer. His YouTube channel, Production Advice. It used to be called something else. I can't remember the name of it now, but Production Advice. He's got a bunch of stuff. He has the Mastering Show, which is a podcast, as well as a show that you can check out there. And he does a lot of videos there about that. And he's the king of dynamic range. So when I was talking before about don't squash your mixes, your final masters, don't just make it like a brick wall and just make it a big sausage. He's definitely all about that. That unfortunately mastering has gone down this rabbit hole where people think that all they have to do is turn the limiter up to 11 and make it a sausage and their mastering's done. Not the case. So you can, of course, hire a mastering engineer. I didn't want to just go through and give you all the options you have without saying that that is an option. Just like recording, just like playing, just like mixing, just like mastering. If you want to be able to do these things, but you don't have the skills yet, there's nothing wrong with actually hiring someone else to do it for you. So keep that in mind. Number three, master in your DAW. So yes, you can actually master in your own DAW. And we're going to do this one. I'm then going to go into some mastering software. So we're going to look at Audio Master Pro, Grand Finale, and Final Touch, which are the three mastering platforms that I've used and recommend here in iOS. Now, there are other mastering apps that you can use for Mac and for PC. You can master in Logic. You can master in Cakewalk by BandLab if you're into that. Basically, you can do these same processes anywhere, but I wanted to give you some options here. So the first one we're going to do in terms of mastering software is mastering right in your DAW. And once again, jump down to the description. There's a whole mastering playlist down there. So we're only going to scrape the surface here today, but there's a whole playlist of other options you have down there. Now, let's get started, shall we? Let's get into the practical stuff. You thought all the theory was a bit boring and dull. We're going to get practical here now. So here is my song called Work in Progress. Here is the final mix. Now, I was listening to it before, and I did think that I'd turned these up before, these choir vocals. I'm just going to turn them down the tiniest notch. There we go. Because this is my final mix of my song, and I'm mastering the final master tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to export this and show you some of these techniques. So here's what the song sounds like. We'll turn it up.
A work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all.
So it starts like that, and then when we get to our like big final chorus, it really pumps in and it starts doing this sort of business.
Figured out with what we know. We all have time and room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it.
So there it is. That's the final mix. Now here's the problem. Problem number one in GarageBand. So we're going to master this in GarageBand to start with. Problem number one in GarageBand is there's auto normalization. Now I'll show you what this does in a moment. But the first thing I've done here in GarageBand, and I've showed this a bunch of times, is down the bottom here, I've added an FX track. You can check this hack out. I've showed it a bunch of times here on the channel. If you have any problems, just message me and let me know. But what we basically do is we turn it down here. And you'll notice here that I've turned it down like 10 dB. So if we put this back up to 0, take a listen to it here.
Nobody's got it figured out.
It's like peaking and clipping, and it's way too loud, mostly because I got my mixer turned up. But what I've done is I've turned that down to the minus 10 dB there. We've lost our screen. That's great. That's all right. We can do it. We can repair it. Here's the thing. I did an entire test run, and did we lose it once in the test run? No. Was I pretty confident that it would just drop out sometime when I was doing the real version? Yes, I was. So we'll jump back in here and we'll resurrect. So we're just going to plug our interface back in and we'll be back up and running and in the game in just a couple of moments. There's the little click and the pop that's telling me it's reconnecting my interface, and we should be back underway in a moment. Thankfully, I've not updated to iOS 15 and I'm not using a Focusrite interface. So we'll come back to here and play it again.
Nobody's knowing.
We're all good. So if we wanted to just master in GarageBand, can we do it? Sure we can. No problem at all. And this is relevant to any DAW. So this same process, if you're using Logic or Reaper or Cakewalk by BandLab or Pro Tools even, you can use this exact same methodology. And that is to export a WAV file, import it back into a project, and master. Simple as that. So all we're going to do is tap and hold on this one. We're going to share it. We're going to share it as a song, an uncompressed WAV file, 44.1, 24-bit, and we're going to share there. And what we're going to do is hit the Open In button. Now, while this is doing this, I'm going to tell you about an app called Audio Share. You'll notice that in a few of these methods, I use Audio Share. Audio Share is an audio editor, it's an audio recorder, it's an audio file transfer app. It is almost essential. You can do this without Audio Share. It just makes life quite a lot more difficult. And Audio Share is like a $5 app. So if there is one, if you're an audio producer on iOS, on iPhone or iPad, and there's one app you should just go and buy, I say this about very few apps, but it's probably Audio Share. So it just makes it easier because I'm going to export this song and I'm going to throw it to Audio Share. If you don't want to export to Audio Share, you can save it to your files and use this exact same method to bring it back in. But I'm just going to save it to Audio Share and then import it from Audio Share. But keep that in mind. If you don't want to spend the $5, you don't have to. But why wouldn't you? Because Audio Share is amazing. All right, we're here. We're going to go and tap Audio Share here. Again, if we wanted to save to files, we could do that. But we're going to go to Audio Share. This will send it straight out to Audio Share. There it is. So here is my final mix. And what you can see here is at the start here, pretty low volume, right? Let's take a look at
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured.
So it's pretty low there. And as you can see through here, it only starts peaking up towards 0 dB towards the end here when we start getting this big full-on sound here.
Oh, yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got.
So we want to be able to tame this and bring up the overall volume here. There you go. Jade Star is giving away a bunch of copies of Audio Share on Patreon this weekend. Just another reason to support Jade Star over on Patreon. There you go. So let's jump in here. What we want to do is first thing we need to do is actually trim this. Now, this is why I love Audio Share, because how simple is this? We need to go Tools and we need to go Trim and Fade, because I didn't bother clipping the front of this GarageBand project because AudioShare does it all for me. What I need to do is grab this front handle and drag it here. Now, if I hold it still, look at this. It comes in here and I can decide where I want it to go. Now, you don't want it right up the front here, right against the front. You want to give it a little bit of breathing room. Usually, like just, so there's the because. We probably want a because and a bit. So I put that about there and then you can test it. So hit play. Oh, hit this button. Sorry, hit the back button, then hit play.
Because we're all just
Probably a bit close even. So we'll tap and hold again, and we'll just move it and give it a little more distance. Maybe move it to about there. Because the reason for that is that some streaming platforms, when you start the song, they actually have a little tiny fade up, and you don't want to get that caught in your final master. So now let's play.
because we're all
That's better. It's like half a second. Take a listen here. I'll click when I hit play, and you'll hear how long it is.
because we're all just a
Perfect. That's going to be just enough that if someone's playing this and they hit play and it goes, nah, it's not going to miss that first word. Now, I've already made the end pretty much where it needs to be, but let's just take a listen to this. There's my fade out. Actually, we can probably cut a little tiny bit from there. So we don't want too much fade out. So again, we'll tap and hold and we'll move it back a bit further. And you can see there, that's probably too much again. Tap and hold, move it a little bit further out. We don't want to remove too much. You don't want to cut off your tail, your reverberation tail. Let's just take a listen to this again. I'll turn the volume up just so that we can make sure it's at the right level. Just make sure that all those tails have gone. Yep. Beautiful. We're happy. I'm a happy chappy. All right, so I'm going to turn the volume back down again. So all we need to do now is hit the save button here in the top right corner. That saved it out. And check out this. We've got this trimmed version. Work in progress 20 trimmed. And now if we go to the start,
because we're all just a work in progress.
there is the file. This is what we're now going to use. So this is saved here in our audio share. If we want to use GarageBand to master, all we need to do is come back to GarageBand. We'll get out of that one. We're going to create a brand new track here. So we're going to hit the create song button here. We're just going to go to our audio recorder and we're going to come up the top here. Yes, we're going to turn on monitoring so we can hear our audio. We're going to come up to the top here, hit the track view button there, and we're going to import this. Now, if we tap here on the loop icon, what we can do is come down here. Oh, I've got monitoring on. Hang on. I'm like, where is that? Where is that coming from? It's coming from inside the house. No, so we've got monitoring on. We'll turn that off. So we hit the loop button here. And what we want to do is browse items. So we'll hit the browse button there. We're going to go back here, back here, back here, and go to audio share. Now here is our audio share file, work in progress 20 trimmed. That is going to download. And it's going to pop it right here. Now, I need to clean this up because these are all the gang vocals. Where is it? There it is. Work in progress 20 trimmed. So what we're going to do is tap and hold, drag this in on a separate fresh track like so. And then if we zoom all the way out, check it out. We've got our whole song here in a GarageBand track.
Because we're all just a work in progress.
And now we can get at the mastering. So we'll delete that first track. Let's play around with this. Now, as you know, because we just talked about it, we're battling GarageBand's auto normalization. So you can see here that here towards the end, it's already up at 0 dB. So what I generally do when I come in here to GarageBand to master is I turn it down because we're going to add some limiting. So what I'll do is I'll grab this, and you can either grab this handle and turn it down like that, which, now that's right, I've got to double tap with my finger to go back to the standard. Or what I recommend to give you more precise control, you can actually tap on this, hit the settings button, and use your gain dial here to drop this down by, say, 3 dB, or you can go even further. Let's go down to like 5 dB, shall we? So down 5 dB. So we now know that we've got a little bit more headroom because GarageBand don't give you no headroom when you export. So now when we play,
because we're all just a work in
it's much quieter there. And when we come here to the final section,
time and room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in.
we've created ourselves some artificial headroom. So now the reason for that is we want to turn down those spiky bits so that when we add a limiter, it's going to bring everything up. You'll be able to see visually what we do here in a moment. So we're going to go into our plugins and EQs. In here, hit the plugins and EQ button. And what we're going to do, turn off that effect EQ. Now, in here, you can add whatever plugins you want. If you want to use a compressor, if you want to use the EQ, if you want to use any third-party plugins, all you need to do is hit the plus button here, audio unit extensions. We can add Bruce Free. We can use a mastering plugin, for goodness sake. I could use Audio Master Pro, which I'm going to show you in a minute, as an actual plugin here. So anything we want to use, we can. The simplest way, though, and the one thing that I recommend that you always do, is add in a limiter. Now, thankfully, GarageBand has one built in, which is this one, the AU peak limiter, down the bottom here of your audio unit extensions. If you've never seen this one before and not sure what it does, this is what it's cool for. We're going to tap on the orange icon there. And you can leave these at 0.002 or 0.005. That's fine. What I tend to do is just slow down the attack a little bit and speed up the release a little bit. So I normally go like 0.05 and 0.003. Doesn't really matter. But the thing you want to do is turn up the pre-gain here. So this is going to re-add in the gain that we took away. Now, why are you taking away gain and adding it in? Well, with a limiter, this isn't just a volume dial, so you're not going to clip. The thing that a limiter does, it's like a brick wall. It means that if you turn up the volume, it's not going to go above 0 dB. So now that we've added this in, let's take a look and a listen at this track now.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured.
So it's starting to turn it up. But what we want to do, let's come here to this louder section and see what it's doing down here.
With what we know, we all have time and room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in.
Can you hear how that's really starting? Just that limiter is really starting to give it a little bit more push through there. And this is going to help us get our overall volume up to that radio ready level. Let's just take a listen. What I'll do is let's turn the limiter off and I'll play it and then I'll turn it on and you'll hear the difference. So here's it without the limiter.
Nobody's got it.
Let's limit it.
Figured out. With what we know, we all have time.
Hear how it's not just turning the volume up, but it's really balancing out. It's basically, because it's limited as a compressor, it's pushing everything down and then pulling up the overall volume. So with just that one change here, well, actually, before we do this, before we export, I'll show you something here. What we can do is with our AU, with this limiter, let's just turn it up too far. So you can see here I put the pre-gain up to 5 dB. I'll show you what to do wrong. So if you want it to sound bad, turn this pre-gain up too much, and here's what's going to happen.
All just a work in progress. Nobody's got it. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have time.
Now I have done that way too high. I've put it up to 18 dBs of gain. And what it's doing, did you hear the pumping? Did you hear it trying to? What it's doing there is, it's because it's this brick wall, it's bouncing against the wall. It's not letting it go over 0 dB. Instead, it's bouncing up above it. And this is, I think, the easiest way to explain. The reason I show this first is this is the easiest way to explain how a limiter works and what you can do wrong with mastering. Over compressing or over limiting will make your audio pump. You'll get distortion, you'll get artifacts. It's not cool. So turn this sucker down. So we'll turn it down, and you can probably go a little bit higher. Let's just for argument's sake, let's go up to like 9 dB here.
The room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody.
And you can see there on the meter here in GarageBand, it's really starting to push it. So I'm going to export this version. I would probably only do it to 5 or 6, but we'll do it to this version just so that you can see what this does. So let's save out of this one. We'll give this a name. We'll just call it WIP Master so that we know what we're doing here. And let's export this one. Tap and hold and share. Export the song, uncompressed wave, hit the share button. Now we're going to just open it in and send this one back out to audio share. What you're going to see here is the difference. So yes, you should be mastering and mixing with your ears. Oh, it's done already. That was quick. Because it's only one channel, right? It's only one track, so it's a lot quicker to do that. We'll hit the audio share button here now and check it out, people. This is what mastering does for you. So instead of the original version that looked like this is what our mastered version looks like. So you can see there that we've got, in fact, we haven't really because we turned down the input gain, we haven't really overmastered this one too much. But take a listen here to what it sounds like now in the intro to this. We'll just come in a little further.
Got it. Nobody's got it figured out. Nobody's knowing all they can.
Now compare this to our original version that sounds like this. Compared to something like, oops, wrong one. Compared to something like this.
All just a work in progress. Nobody's got it. Nobody.
Now, at this point, I want you to pause and remember that volume always sounds better. So more volume is not always the best thing. It will always sound slightly better when it's got more volume than less. So we can do that. I'll just show you something really quick here, because while we're in here, if we wanted to overdo this, let's go back to our plugins. And remember, you can use EQ, you can use compressors, you can use anything else. You can add reverb, you can do whatever you want here. But if we go back to our peak limiter here, let's just blast ourselves. Let's put this to 20 dB. I'm not going to even listen to it here, but let's come back out here and export this one. So we'll go back to share. We'll share the song. We'll hit uncompress wave. This time, open in, and it shouldn't take long again. Quick drink. It's going to export the song. There it is. It's done. We're going to open it back up in Audio Share. It's going to be master version 1 now here. Look at this business. This is what we're talking about. This is the sausage. Reason I say sausage is that, like, it's almost a solid block, right? Even this quiet part, even this bit that's supposed to be dynamic, this is not supposed to be as loud as this. Why would I want the start? Why would I want this to be as loud as this? But guess what happens when you overmaster? Look at the start of this song, for goodness sake.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out.
And hopefully you're hearing the pumping, and as Clayton Von Kluge is saying here, the pulsing that you're getting when it's hitting the top of that brick wall. It's no good. You don't want that. So that's an example of what not to do when you're mastering. But tell you what, I would be very happy. I've actually done this with songs before. I've mastered legitimately here in GarageBand. All I've done is added in a limiter, added myself a few dBs of gain as a limiter, and then released it. And it's fine. Like, it's all good. So mastering doesn't have to be this mysterious art. And Ian Shepherd's looking at me just going, he's crossing his arms like this. He's like, oh, it's not just what it is, Johns. But if you want a simple approach to it, you can. Let's move on. That's the easiest way. We've got a bunch of other things before we do this. Question here from Gregory O'Sullivan before we move on. What about the YouTube loudness penalty, Pete? Yeah, so that is a good point. We're not covering it in this video, but if you do go, in fact, go to loudnesspenalty.com. Once you get your final master, and maybe in tomorrow's show, when we're looking at this mastering stuff in more detail, we'll actually look at that, because when we do a master, loudnesspenalty.com tells you how much different platforms will turn up or down your tracks. And if you're talking about the fact that, yeah, you're listening through YouTube compression right now, yeah, you're not hearing the full pristine quality of this audio anyway, but hopefully you're getting a bit of an example and you're getting the gist of it. All right, let's continue on here. There is also mastering software that you can use, and there are 3 different bits of mastering software in iOS that I use and recommend that I talked about before, and we're going to go through all 3 of them right now. Number 1 is an app called Audio Master Pro, and we're going to load this one up here. I'm just going to close down all the apps that I have running here just so that we can start afresh. Let's jump in. Let's jump in and look at Audio Master Pro. So we'll come over here, we'll load this one up here on our iPad. This is what Audio Master Pro looks like. Now, Audio Master Pro is good because you can just import your audio. You don't need audio share. You don't need anything else involved here. I think it's about between a $10 and $20 app. Should have done my homework beforehand. I'll link these apps down in the description so you can check them out for yourself. So, but this is probably the cheapest and easiest way to master outside of just using your DAW. So with with Audio Master Pro, what do? Well, to import a song, we tap on this button here in the top left, and what we can do is just go import from iCloud. And what we can do is go back to our browse, and whether they're on your iCloud drive or your iPad, they're in audio share files for us. So we're going to go there. We're going to scroll on down, and we're going to bring in this one, the Work in Progress 20 trimmed. So that's the file we're bringing in. It's going to import our file, and in just a couple of minutes, through the magic of production, here it is. It's analyzing our audio. It's working out what it's doing, and there it is. So there's our waveform, and this is all that Audio Master Pro is. So if we scroll to the left, all the way to the left, you've got a custom EQ. So we can tweak the different EQ, the different EQ settings and amounts if you want to do it a custom, or we can use one of the presets. So we've got presets in this for podcasts, for voiceover, for rock, for folk, for blues, for classical, for country, for hip hop, for electronic, for jazz, for Latin, new age, pop, R&B and soul. So there's a bunch of different stuff in here that we can do. Now, this song is more of a rock song than any other. By the way, there's links to full tutorials on all of these down in the description. So if I don't cover everything you want to know about, you can jump on down there and check those out. But what we're going to do is we're going to play this one. So we'll start with rock. Now there's 3 settings for each. All of these dials, they do nothing. I'm sorry to break it to you, but the dials do nothing. They're just there for show. I know it's a bit weird because whenever you've got dials like this, you're like, oh, I should be able to twiddle every one of these dials. No. All you can do is decide whether it's 1, 2, or 3. So that's why I started with this one. This is the simplest way to do this. So if we go with rock 1 and we leave it at 100%, let's hit the play button on this and see what this is doing.
Because we're all just a work in progress.
Now, the cool thing about Audio Master Pro is there's a compare button in the bottom right corner here. Let's go to a louder section here so we're going to get the idea of this. So we can just drag along here. And if we play, what we can do is if you hold down on this compare button, see how it goes red and your volume goes down? That turns off the mastering. And then if you release, it turns it back on. So if we hit play, I'm going to hold down to release it and then turn it back on and you'll hear the difference.
Progress. Nobody's got it. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have time and room to grow. Yes, we're all.
So that is the most subtle mastering. And the meter here, it's kind of dodgy. It doesn't really show you much, to be very honest. But what you can do is you can dial up the percentage here. So you can see there I was at 100%. You can go to 200, 300, 400, and this is basically almost like the ratio of your compression. So I wouldn't recommend going too high on this, but let's start dialing this up and see what it does, shall we? So we've got it on, we'll hit play and we'll dial it up.
Just a work in progress. Nobody's got it. Nobody's got it figured out.
So see how we're starting to hit the red over here at like 190%? That's probably too much. Let's back it off. Let's go 170.
Nobody's got it
Still kind of hitting there. What about 150? And let's try that.
figured out.
Still pretty heavy. So you can see here that this does a lot. The other thing is that you get kind of a mild master with 1, and then if you go to 2,
Nobody's got it figured out.
you get a different kind of sound, and to 3.
Nobody's got it.
So they use different EQ profiles. So it's very much around trial and error with this one. But that being said, I have used this before and actually mastered a song. Let's just maybe try the folk at like a number 2 and put it to like 170 and just see what this is. And once again, we'll hit the button and then I'll do the compare thing again. So we'll play and then I'll turn it off and on and you'll be able to hear the difference with the mastered and non-mastered version.
Nobody's got it figured out.
Unmastered.
Nobody's got it figured out.
So that's pretty good. Now, I'm going to deliberately kind of overdo it. I'm going to overcook it to like 171% here and show you what this looks like. So let's export this out now. We're going to use the button in the top right again, this time the export button. Tap on that one. Now, this one's a bit weird. It's only got 16-bit wave or 32-bit HD wave. So you want to choose that one. 32-bit float's a bit weird. Most of the time you want 24-bit, but it's okay. AudioShare will convert it for you anyway if you need to convert it back to 24-bit, which I'd recommend you do. But we're going to export this one, and then we'll save it into the AudioShare file folder, and we'll show you and take a listen to this master now that it has been done. So you can see it's very simple, very easy interface. There you go. We'll hit the save button. We'll save it into our AudioShare and hit the save button there. Let's go back over to AudioShare, like so, and see what this one looks like. So if we scroll down, it is, where is it? Work in progress, this one here, Audio Master. There you go. Okay, not actually too bad. I thought there would be more. I thought that would look more like this. But it's actually looking more like the master we did here. So this was our proper GarageBand master, and this is our Audio Master. So a little bit more aggressive than what we did with our mastering in GarageBand. But let's take a listen to it here in AudioShare.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out.
Not bad, yeah. Let's come in here to the middle where it's a louder section.
Just a work in progress. Nobody's got it. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have.
Definitely punches through better, doesn't it? Definitely get more clarity than if you're listening to something like your original file like this, where it's just sounding like this.
Got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work.
Nothing wrong with this, but you're not getting that more consistent volume because, again, you're getting these ups and downs. And you don't want no ups and downs, but you do definitely want something that's going to be right up there around that 0 dB. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, Pete, I've heard about LUFS and I've heard about all these other monitoring things for mastering. Yes, there's a lot of different ways to measure masters. A lot of the iOS stuff doesn't have a whole lot in the way of the best metering that you'll ever want to get, but it works. And if it sounds good, it is good. As long as you're not hearing clipping and pumping and distortion. And again, you could always use the loudness penalty to throw it in there. Hello to Andy Goldsby, by the way. We were talking about Andy Goldsby before. Don't forget, Andy will be on Jade Star's show tomorrow. Let's move on to our next app. And we are talking about Grand Finale is up next, and we're going to jump over here. We're going to go to Grand Finale. Now, Grand Finale is an app by our friends at Clevgrand, and you may be aware that I actually really dig Clevgrand. They do a lot of really cool apps, and they do this one as well. They do the Visibel app, which is a great visualizer, and this is a very easy to use mastering platform. Here's, however, where you need to get your audio share game on, because when you're importing into Grand Finale, as we're going to do here, we've only got the ability for iTunes import, extract from video, or audio share. So we're going to have to use audio share import here. Quick drink. And we're going to come down here and grab our trimmed version there. We're going to hit the import into app here. And here's what we got, right? So we have a few options here. We've got our input and output and our limiter in the top here. We've then got our ability to add in distortion and compression and gain here. We've got a compressor, a multi-band compressor, a stereo tool, and an equalizer. Now, we don't have time in this video to go in and do detailed tweaking of all of these. So instead, we're going to use some presets. But if you do want to check out the full video where I show all of the functions and exactly what all they do, check out the description down below. So here's our song as it stands. We're going to hit play.
Because we're all just a work in progress.
And you'll see at the top here, we do have a slightly better meter here. So we've actually got some decent metering here that we can actually see what's going on. You've got your LUFS meter, you've got RMS metering there as well. So you can switch.
Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all
to your LUFS metering or your RMS.
just a work in progress. Nobody's got
Which is kind of cool. But let's use some presets here. So we'll go down the bottom here to presets. We'll go to our mastering presets, and you can do a bunch of stuff. So there's sort of a different sort of genres and things here. But what we've basically got here is I'll generally start with either the gentle, medium, or hard master. So let's bring the gentle master in here. Gentle master. And hit play on this one.
Nobody's got it figured out. Nobody's
Now, you might be thinking, Pete, that doesn't sound gentle in any way, shape, or form. Here's the main reason for that. See this input gain? As you know, our input is up already pretty loud. So what I generally do in any mastering app, and you can't do this in Audio Master Pro, but you can in these ones, is turn down my input gain. Because this is basically assuming we've got some headroom. GarageBand don't give us no headroom. So if we turn down the input gain here and hit play now,
doing all they can. Not everything will go to plan.
so that's sounding a lot better, yeah. Now, if we go back to our presets, I'm just going to show you these simple. We've got the medium master here, and we'll play this one.
You might be set up,
Again, a bit full on, so we'd probably drop it down about 5 dB on the input. So,
or you might get fed up, or maybe just
and you can see that it's changing all of these things. We're getting different amounts of distortion and compression and multiband compression and stereo change. And you can adjust all these. So if you wanted to add some more stereo width, for instance, on this mix, we can add that and then take a listen.
need a helping hand. Because we're all just
And you can hear it's giving it a whole bunch of stereo width. So there's some options in there that you can play around with. Now, the good thing about this, you can turn each section off and on, or you can turn the whole thing off and on. So if we're playing along here and we want to do, again, that A-B testing, we'll hit play. We'll turn this off. Let's hit play, and I'll turn it on. You'll hear the difference.
a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. We all have doubt.
There you go. And of course, you have a whole bunch of other presets here. You can spend a lot of time tweaking this. So this is kind of the medium. There's the light, the medium, and then the full buffet of mastering apps that we're going to have a look at in a minute. But let's export this one now. So we've just got some basic tweaks there. We'll turn that back on. We'll hit the export button. And again, we can export this as a 24-bit wave. We'll hit the save button here. It's going to render out this audio. It does take a bit longer to render than some of the other ones, so we're going to just have to sit here and have a wee chat while it does this, but it will render this out. That's one thing about Cleve Grant apps. They do take a little bit longer to render out than any of our other mastering apps, so you'll just have to bear with us for just a moment. While we're waiting for that to render out, hello to Black Covers who's dropped on in. I hope you are doing well. Yeah, I did show Visibel a while ago, the Cleve Grant app. It's pretty darn cool. Who else haven't I said g'day to? I think I've said g'day to everyone else who is here live. What do you use to master? Let's ask that. Do you master in your DAW? Do you master using an app? Do you master at all? I would love to hear from you. Let me know, and at the end of the video, we'll have a bit of a chat. And again, if you have any questions, please do ask here. That one had a nice effect on the bass. Yeah, it did, didn't it? That mastering grand finale, I think the EQing it did really brought the bass out nicely. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. Here it is. It is now exported. We're going to go, and once again, we're going to save this over to audio share. There it is. Hit the audio share button. It's going to open this one over in audio share. There it is. So this has probably gone a little bit heavy, as you can see at the start there. It's really pushed it up here. But again, it's quite similar again. So every mastering process is going to do something a little bit different. But yeah, you just need to find what works for you. So let's take a listen in the middle section here of what Grand Finale's done to this one.
Just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got.
Yeah, that one's really brought out the bass. Probably too much. You'd probably want to go back and tweak out the bass in Grand Finale and remove a little bit of it down. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty darn cool. That is Grand Finale there. We have one to go, and it is the granddaddy of mastering. It is Final Touch. It is the final countdown, and it is Final Touch. So this is the last platform we're going to look at here, and it is definitely the platform with the most options. Now, I've got a complete series on Final Touch, which I've got linked down in the description. It's like 8 parts, and it goes through everything, because Final Touch has a pretty steep learning curve. Once again, you got presets here that you can use, which will show you in this part, but if you want to learn what all the different components do, we'll go through them quickly here, but if you want to learn more about them, jump down into the description, check out the videos down there. So once again, to add a file here, up in the top left, we're going to tap on this button here. Again, we need to use audio share. It kind of just becomes our go-to here. So we're going to come into audio share. We're going to grab our WAV file. We're going to import it in. And here it is. It's brought it into Final Touch. Now, Final Touch actually has 6 separate modules you can use here. It has a pre-EQ, it has a reverb, it has a dynamics processor, which is a multi-band compressor, it has a stereo imager, it has another EQ, a post-EQ for after all your effects, and it has the all-important maximizer, which is a brick wall limiter. So it has all of those things working for it. Again, we're not going to go through the details of everything here, but if we go to preset, we're going to go in here and let's just go to our genre-based presets. So because this one is kind of rocky, I actually dig on the country rock preset. It hits it pretty hard, but it'll show you what some of these things do. So we'll tap country rock here and see what it's done here. It's added some EQ. It's added some bass and some treble in the EQ. It's added some reverb. It's added some dynamics, some multi-band compression through the mids and the high ends there. It's added a stereo imager here. It hasn't done any post EQ, but it has added a maximizer. So once again, if we come into a louder section of the song, we'll turn it off. It sounds like this.
Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just
Let's turn it on.
a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know.
And why is this one particularly cool? Well, even though we've only got the RMS over here, we've actually got the input and the output gain here. So as you know, what I like to do with this is drop down the input gain, because I know that I don't have headroom in my GarageBand mixes. So let's give it like 6 dB of headroom and the input. And if we play that now,
We all have time, a room to grow, because we're all
because it's expecting that, it's now lower. But here's where we can pull down the threshold, which is our limiter, and start finding the balance here. Let's try that.
just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out.
Pretty cool, yeah. So that's the simplest form, is throw a preset on there, see how it works. But of course, you can go into the pre-EQ, you can design your own curves here with a 8-band EQ. You've got reverb, you've got your multi-band compressor, which there's a lot to play with. And the cool thing about this is it's not only got left and right, but it's got mids as well. You can actually use the, what is it called? I haven't used it in a while, but instead of just left and right, you can actually do the center and the sides, side chains, not side chaining. Mids and sides. So you can actually adjust your mids and your sides there as well. But it's pretty darn cool. We're just going to export this. That master sounded about right. And you know what? That's kind of what it's all about. Just making it sound good. So we're going to export this one. We're going to hit the button there. We're going to send it back to Audio Share. We're going to do it as a 24-bit, remember, 24-bit 44.1 WAV file, and hit export. And this is going to go out. By the way, Final Touch is about a $20 to $30 app, depending where you are in the world. So it does cost you a little more, but as you can see, you've got a whole bunch more in the way of options. That's a pretty good looking master. Again, we want to mix and master with our eyes, not our ears, but that's pretty darn solid. So let's take a listen.
Because we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out.
Sounding good, yeah. Let's listen to this final chorus in our very, very quick Final Touch master.
So work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. Yes, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. With what we know, we all have time.
Pretty good, yeah. When you came from the original song, so remember, this is what we had to begin with. This version here in this final chorus.
With what we know, we all have time and room to grow. Yes, we're all just a work in progress.
Nothing wrong with that, right? But when you compare that and then you grab this and then you go...
Figured out. With what we know, we all have time and room to grow.
This is going to work better in a playlist when you're putting this up against some other produced radio-ready songs. So there you go. In conclusion, what is mastering and why do you need to do it? Well, mastering doesn't have to be difficult. Mastering, and here's the golden rule. Ian Shepherd, who I talked about earlier, says this: mastering should be about doing no harm. It is about enhancing your final mix. If you have to fix stuff in mastering, you're doing it wrong. And if mastering is super complicated and complex and takes you days, you're doing it wrong. You just want to take all the good work you've done in the writing, the recording, the mixing, and just sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust on the top, and that is your master. I hope you found that one interesting. I thought we'd get super practical here tonight and talk all about mastering. So if you have, jeebus, we've got to... There you go. As Dan Ekberg says, I have Final Touch, but for my Songtember song and the foreseeable future, I use Jade Star. Yes, feel free to use Jade Star because her Patreon, as she mentioned earlier, she does do some mastering, and she uses the Lursen mastering console, which we didn't cover here because it is... correct me if I'm wrong, Jade, it's $100. So the apps we looked at there are like 10 and 15 and 20, I think, respectively. I'm pretty sure that Lursen is $100, or it's quite expensive. Cakewalk is also cool. Speaking of Cakewalk, we'll talk about our friend Mike over at Creative Source, because he's about to kick off his live show. In fact, he just has. So I'll send you over there. We'll do a live look-in a minute, and then we'll all go crash Mike's party in just a few moments. I don't know. Another thing, Cakewalk looks so different from PC to PC. It's almost crazy. There's different versions and there's different layouts and different setups. It's kind of why I like GarageBand, to be really honest. One of the reasons I like GarageBand iOS is it's kind of looked the same since version 2.1. So GarageBand here looks the same that it's done for a very long time. There you go, about around $150 for the Lursen mastering console. In fact, we can have a look in here right now. Let's see what it costs in Australian dollar bucks. We'll jump in here to the App Store and take a quick squiz and see what it costs here. So it's the Lursen, isn't it? Lursen mastering console. No, I'm not going to be able to find it, am I? Now that I want to. What is it actually called? It's costly. It costs a bit. Mastering. I thought it was called the mastering console. Let's just see. We'll see if we can find it before we finish up here. There it is. So the lesson, so you can get it, but then it's got that's right. You get it for free, and then it's got in-app purchases, which we should be able to see. It's from our friends at IK Multimedia. But where's the bit where it tells you the in-app purchases? We're just going to get it now. No. Anyway, it's costly. It's all the money. So there you go. Is Mike show in 2 hours? There you go. So Mike's doing a late show tonight because he's probably got guests from places where they can hang out late. There you go. Yeah, that's right. He's got Ricky. Ricky T. Brown and I think the Lonely Rocker. So yeah, he's probably doing a later show tonight. So forget what I said about Mike. He's not here. He'll be around in a couple of hours when I'm well and truly in bed and asleep. We'll get rid of that conclusion there too. But I will still give you a link and I will still tell you to go over and check out Mike because he's a good fellow. And he does good things. I didn't check that because normally he's been going live now, but I think that's to help out folks like me and Jade when he had us on the show, who are our Australian friends. But Mike's obviously doing a later show tonight. Let's go find it. Yes, it is. Look, it's 11:30 p.m. my time. I will be well and truly in the land of Nod over here. But there it is. So jump over there. Look, we're gonna give him a like. We're gonna share it right here in the chat because if anyone's around, I know the folks in the US and Canada in particular, you'll still be around when this show is, and especially the folks in the UK, you'll be around. So go over there and we'll say Ricky T is awesome. There you go. Because Ricky T. Brown is an awesome dude. So I'm going to throw him the first comment over there. Actually, no. Most ludicrous said zoinks. Zoinks, Scoob. So there you go. I hope you got some value out of this one. I hope you had some fun here tonight or this morning or this afternoon. If you did, give it the old thumbs up. And what have we got coming up? Well, what haven't we got coming up is more the question because in officially 12 hours time from now, we will be returning because I've got a couple more shows for you right here on the channel. I'm just stalling while I go and find them. We'll come over to this one. I'll show you behind the scenes of my YouTube dashboard so you can see what's going on here. So we've got a couple of shows here. We have this one here, which is mastering. So we're going to go through the actual mastering process. I'm probably going to use Final Touch. So this is this one here. There it is. You can again go and jump in and check that one out as well. And the other one that we have is back to here. Is we're going to look at album artwork. So I'm going to show you how I use Canva. So I use a service called canva.com. It is free. There is a paid version. You can check out the free version. You can see how you can use do some album artwork. Because guess what? As I alluded to, tomorrow we're finishing things. We are mastering this song, my Songtember song. We are then creating album artwork. And then in the middle of YML on Friday night or Saturday morning, we are going to go ahead and release this song using DistroKid. Thank you for being here tonight, everybody. I hope you have fun. And as we say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.